Tyler Reddick is losing his own championship to a driver on a part-time deal, and the part-timer's car got faster after hitting the wall. That is not a metaphor. That is what happened at Naval Base Coronado on Sunday. Corey Heim, 13 career cup starts, 12 race schedule, technically still a development driver, walked into the most unusual track in NASCAR history and produced a result his crew chief cannot scientifically explain. Heim on the radio after the race: "Maybe I knocked some good into the car. I have no idea." Meanwhile, Reddick's secret is a different kind. His team made unapproved adjustments to a damaged splitter, and NASCAR sent him to the back before the green flag waved. He started 17th by choice, climbed to the lead, then crashed the championship margin from 129 points all the way to 8 in 5 weeks. Denny Hamlin, who co-owns Reddick's team and is now 8 points behind him, called Reddick's decision to lift off Heim in turn 5 a display of character. Hamlin would know. The man just won 3 in a row. Subscribe. I want your read on Hamlin's timing. The car nobody can explain passed NASCAR's post-race inspection without a single flag. That is where the story actually starts. Go back to May. Specifically, go back to the race at Watkins Glen on May 10th. Tyler Reddick crossed the line that day, sitting on a 129-point championship lead. In NASCAR's current playoff format, that number is not just comfortable, it is borderline historic for that stage of a season. Reddick had won 5 of the first 9 races: the Daytona 500, Atlanta, Circuit of the Americas, Darlington, Kansas. That is 5 different track types, 5 different race strategies, 5 different ways of beating the same field. Denny Hamlin, who co-owns the 23XI racing organization that employs Reddick, went on his Actions Detrimental podcast and did not hold back. He deserves everything he gets. He's performing at a very, very high level. He's just kicking ass. Michael Jordan, the other co-owner, called him on fire. The contract extension got announced. The franchise driver was locked in for the long term. From the outside looking in, this was a championship that had already found its owner. Reddick's core identity as a driver has always been the same thing: controlled aggression. He does not look like he is winning races from the inside of the broadcast. He looks like he is managing them. The throttle applications are clean, the pit strategy calls are calm, and the post-race interviews are measured. What makes Reddick dangerous is that his races only look inevitable in hindsight. What makes him human is that the control has to be maintained every single lap of every single weekend, and Coronado was not a normal weekend. No historical data, no validated simulation. A track surface nobody had ever raced on. Going in, he was the story of the 2026 season. The circuit had other ideas. Then his team touched a splitter. The Qualcomm circuit at Naval Base Coronado is a 3.4-mile, 16-turn street course carved into an active U.S. military installation. No team had ever run a race lap on it before qualifying weekend. There was no historical tire data, no simulation set that had been validated against actual race conditions. Every crew chief was operating on educated guesswork, and the margins for error were tighter than normal. During Saturday's qualifying session, Reddick spun entering turn 2. The car made contact, and the front splitter, the thin aerodynamic plank that runs along the underside of the car's nose, took damage. His crew did what any professional pit crew would do: they repaired it before race day. The problem is that NASCAR's rulebook does not allow teams to make adjustments to specific components after qualifying without prior approval. The splitter falls under that category. When you change, reshape, or repair a splitter without going through the sanctioning body's approval process, NASCAR classifies it as an unapproved adjustment, and the standard penalty is a mandatory start from the rear of the field. Reddick was not alone. Christopher Bell in the number 20 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota and Eric Jones in the number 43 also had splitter damage from the session and made the same call. All 3 went to the back. On a 3.4-mile street course where clean air and track position determine almost everything, starting last on a circuit nobody knows is not a setback. It is a different race entirely. Corey Heim started 13th. That detail matters more than people are giving it credit for, because starting 13th at Coronado and starting from the rear are not comparable situations. But what happened to both cars in the first half of the race looked almost identical in terms of raw difficulty. Heim fell to 20th early. His team cycled through what crew chief Booty Barker had already told him were the 2 worst tire sets they had brought to the circuit: the scuffed qualifying sets. Heim hit the wall once, then hit it again. The car was not responding the way the simulator suggested it should. Barker stayed calm on the radio. "These are our worst 2 sets. We're going to be fine." That is the kind of thing crew chiefs say to keep a young driver's head in the race. What made it unusual is that Barker turned out to be correct. At stage 2's end, fresh tires went on the number 67 Toyota. Heim described what happened next in a single sentence. "Maybe I knocked some good into the car. I have no idea." That sentence circulated through NASCAR social media the rest of Sunday night and into Monday morning because it is genuinely baffling. In professional motorsport, the driver and crew chief are supposed to know exactly what changed. The setup sheet exists for that reason. Post-race debrief exists for that reason. But Heim's answer, delivered at the winner's podium in front of cameras, not in a private garage conversation, was a flat admission that the number 67 car improved in a way nobody on that team could trace to a specific decision. The NASCAR garage spent Sunday evening trying to explain it. Nobody could. Here's the only explanation anyone in the garage could offer. A wall strike can shift a car's front end geometry by fractions of an inch, enough to change how downforce loads across a brand new surface that nobody had modeled. Heim hit the wall twice. Something changed. NASCAR's post-race inspection found nothing outside of spec. Whatever happened, it was legal. And that makes the story stranger, not simpler. Now consider the parallel. Reddick's team was penalized for making an approved repair to a damaged splitter through an unapproved process. Heim hit a wall twice, may have accidentally altered his front-end geometry, and drove to his first Cup win. The sanctioning body reviewed both outcomes. One team started last. One team won. The rulebook separated them on Sunday morning. The track surface reunited them by lap 73. Reddick's comeback from the rear was real. He climbed through the field the way only a driver with his caliber of car control can on a narrow street circuit. Patient on restarts, aggressive in the braking zones, precise through the slower chicanes. He led 9 laps. With 5 to go, he looked every bit like the championship leader reclaiming a race he had every right to win. The Reddick who dominated the first third of 2026, the one Hamlin described as just kicking ass, was right there on the Coronado circuit in the final stage. Then Heim appeared in his mirrors. Reddick missed his braking point entering turn 2 on lap 73. It was not dramatic. It was a fraction of a second, the kind of mistake that costs a driver 2 car lengths on a normal circuit. On a 16-turn street course with a development driver hunting behind you, 2 car lengths is the race. Heim drove through the gap immediately. They ran side by side through turns 3 and 4, and Reddick tried a crossover move going into turn 5, diving to Heim's left, attempting to reclaim the inside line. The front of the number 45 Toyota made contact with Heim's car and pushed him wide toward the wall and the tire marbles at the edge of the groove. Heim held on. Reddick, recognizing what he had just done, backed out of it. He did not complete the pass. A few corners later, Reddick's left front tire went flat. He limped to 25th place. The championship cushion that stood at 129 points 6 weeks ago was now 8. Reddick's own words after the race were the most honest assessment of his situation anyone offered all weekend. "The only way this day could have been worse is if somehow the contact we had took him out of winning this race as well. I flat out made a couple of mistakes, and it cost me the lead. Then I made some more mistakes trying to get the lead back." And then the sentence that defined the entire post-race press conference: "We're going down the wrong path right now and we need to stop it." That is not how a driver with a commanding points lead talks. That is how a driver talks when he can feel something shifting beneath him and cannot identify exactly where the ground is anymore. Denny Hamlin finished 14th, 3 consecutive Cup wins entering Sunday. 14 points added to his tally with a quiet, unremarkable race that nobody focused on because the drama was all in the front. He now sits 8 points behind the driver who works for the team Hamlin co-owns. When asked about the turn 5 battle between Reddick and Heim, Hamlin offered this: "I think it speaks a lot to Tyler's character. Right? He apparently felt like Corey raced him very clean, got around him clean, and when he tried to pass him back clean, he didn't, so he wanted to hit the reset button and try it again." Every word of that sentence is true. Not one word of it addresses what it means for Hamlin's own championship position. That is deliberate. Hamlin's core identity has always been the same. He is the most calculating operator in the NASCAR garage, and he has been for 2 decades. He does not react to moments. He positions himself around them. On Sunday, the moment came to him. The 23XI organization is now looking at additional penalties from a post-race incident involving Bubba Wallace's car during the race. The penalty report for the week is expected this week. That means the team that just had its best day in organization history, and the 1-2 finish. Heim's first Cup win. Hamlin closing to within 8 points of of the lead, maybe starting Monday morning absorbing more regulatory consequences. That is the operating reality of running a competitive NASCAR program in 2026. The good news and the bad news arrive together. Sonoma Raceway is next. 9 races remain in the regular season after Coronado. Reddick has never won there. Hamlin is 8 points back and has won 3 in a row. And the one driver who could complicate both of their days, Van Gisbergen, 17th in standings, first driver outside the chase cut line, is staring at the one track where he is historically untouchable. Reddick needs a reset. Hamlin needs one more quiet finish. Van Gisbergen needs a win or his season ends before the playoffs start. 3 different emergencies, 1 race. The question is, which emergency gets resolved and which one gets worse? Corey Heim, for his part, drove home to a full-time Cup seat that has already been confirmed. Starting in 2027, he will be in the number 35 Toyota full-time for 23X Chiron parked in the garage next to Tyler Reddick, the same driver he just beat on Sunday. Reddick cannot be upset about it. He cannot call it unfair. He told the press that Heim raced him clean, and he meant it. What makes Sunday genuinely difficult to process is that the driver who just cost Reddick 43 points and the championship lead he spent 4 months building is about to become his permanent teammate. They will share data, share manufacturer resources, share a hauler on race weekends. The sport does not offer clean endings. Whether Sunday at Naval Base Coronado was the moment the 2026 championship actually turned is a question that only Sonoma and the 8 races that follow it can answer. But the number 67 Toyota that walked out of post-race inspection with a clean bill of health, faster after hitting the wall, faster with no explained setup change, faster than a 5-time race winner in a championship fight, is now part of the official race record. Whatever Booty Barker did or did not do, it worked. And in a sport where every 10th of a second is documented, logged, and argued over, I have no idea is the most dangerous answer a winning driver has ever given. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think Reddick gets it together at Sonoma, or is Hamlin already the real championship leader? Subscribe if you are new, because this story is nowhere close to finished.